Rachel Catalina Cantu, and this is my mandatory demonstrative speech. Today I'm going to show y'all how to mix colors, paints, basically, but I'm only going to be using the primary colors, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the video. But I want to start off by talking about a little bit of the history of like mixing paints, color theory, how that kind of became the norm in every art class, because in every art class you take from elementary up into college, you're gonna see this thing or this circle called the color wheel. And I'm pretty sure many of y'all have seen that at least somewhere or some point in your life. You've seen that color wheel before. And Grant Marcus, who was a Swedish painter and sculptor, he wrote a color system for artists, which was published by the MIT Press. In the beginning of this article, he says, or he talks about, the history of mixing paints and colors. But he starts it off by saying how in the 5th century, and I'm talking about the 5th century, like early on, like when humans barely almost kind of started existing type thing. There was only 4 colors available to artists at that time, and it was earth yellow, red, black, and white. Those are the only colors available at the time. So you can imagine the type of struggles an artist might endure during that time frame in the human timeline. But it was after that. It was after some time had passed, and Isaac Newton made that discovery of passing the light through the prism. He passed the light through the prism, and he unfolded the color scheme for us basically. But then after that experiment, it was Charles Henry who actually discovered the color wheel over here for us. So y'all can give that back up. Y'all can give that credit to Charles Henry. And again, I'm still talking about the history of painting because we were just talking about the 5th century. So Alan E. Sharpeto is a professor at the University of Minnesota. He's a professor there, but his specialty is history, science, and technology. And he's in the program there for history, science, and technology at the University of Minnesota. But he published an article called it's called Artist Colors and Newton's Colors. And in here, he talks about how in the late Middle Ages, that's when you actually started to see painters at the time actually start, mixing their colors and things like that. That's when you actually start seeing, artists whose palettes look like this, with all these different types of colors and things like that. That's when that started happening, the late Middle Ages. And it wasn't until the Italian and Northern Renaissance time period, that wasn't until mixing colors, that's when it was done across the board. That's when things started to become standardized in the art community, and that's why we have the color wheel. And before I forget, that article was published by the University of Chicago Press. And yeah, it wasn't until that Renaissance time period where you started to see some pretty crazy artwork. And I'll show y'all here real quick. Renaissance artwork. It's crazy how they created these effects. Everything looks so smooth, and you could almost touch it in the picture. But anyways, let's get down to nitty-gritty. So, like I said, it wasn't until the Renaissance time period where colors and things like that were widely known. And before I start, you might be wondering, Rachel, why is that a broken piece of glass and mirror. I'll tell you why. If you ever gone to an art store or anything like that, you're gonna notice some papers that are called palette. It's called palette paper, and that palette paper, it's gonna be gray. And the reason why it's gray is because gray is considered a neutral color. So artists like to have a piece of glass or a piece of mirror to paint on, actually not paint on, but to use as a palette, so to say. So you can see, so whatever colors you're mixing, you can see the colors for what they actually are with a neutral background, basically. So that's why I'm using this clean slate of mirror, so to give me a clean background. But like I said, if you took any type of art class, you will know that our 3 primary colors are red, which I'm gonna swatch right here, usually a crimson red, and then we're gonna get some yellow. Almost any type of yellow is gonna work. Yes, I know that there's colors in it. It doesn't really gonna matter here. And then blue is gonna be our last and final color. So these are our primary colors. And what I'm gonna show y'all here today, I need a little bit more yellow, sorry y'all. I'm gonna start out with doing blue, mixing blue and yellow for y'all, because I think everyone knows that color. I discovered this when I was in kindergarten. Everyone knows when you mix blue and yellow, and you can see it almost immediately. When you mix blue and yellow, you get green. And I think everyone knows that one, right? Anyway, but you get this nice like mossy green. It's absolutely beautiful. Let me mix that in here real quick for y'all. And yeah, you can also, there's no right or wrong way to like mix into your little heart, until your little heart says, you know, that's enough mixing. But you know, until you know all the colors are, there's that green there for y'all. And now this is when a lot of people don't actually know, but then let's take our yellow here. So you get some yellow right here, you get some red, and you don't need a lot either. You don't need that much red to do this. But once you start mixing that, you know, it might not look like much right now, but as I mix it in more and more, that red starts to disappear. That red starts to go away, and then you're left with this beautiful, like almost burnt sienna color. Or how some people like to say, it's orange. And the great part about mixing colors, and you'll learn this if you know, as your artist journey goes, that when you start mixing colors like this, they really start to mute down and things like that. So then our last and final color here is going to be blue and red mixed together. And honestly, y'all, this is the hardest color here to make, honestly. Mixing because like I said, if you know anything about art, there's not necessarily purple, it's called violet. So we're trying to make violet here, and honestly, I've been painting for a couple of years now and trying to mix red and blue is honestly still pretty hard. But I think I can do it for here, y'all. But this is violet here. So you have your primary colors, red, yellow, blue, primary colors. Your secondary colors, green, orange, violet. And those were when, and you know, boom, you have like almost a rainbow right there for y'all. And that's how you mix colors. So again, to reiterate, painting has come a very long way from the 5th century. All these time periods have gone by, all these generations have gone by, and really, you know, experimented with paint and color and things like that. You know, we have color theory now. You could go into any arts and crafts store, Hobby Lobby, Michael's, and things like that, and you'll find books about mixing colors, and there's mixing color recipes and things like that. So the world of art has definitely gone somewhere, and I think I think everyone needs to notice the advancement that things have gone in the world of art and mixing colors and paints like that. But I just want to thank y'all for watching this long, and I really appreciate it. Again, that's how you mix colors. Thank y'all.